In the heart of Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates carved their way through the cradle of civilization, rose the ancient city of Babylon. Its towering ziggurats touched the skies, its walls proclaimed its power, and its markets overflowed with the wealth of empires. But beneath the grandeur, hidden in plain sight, lay one of the darkest institutions of the ancient world, the slave markets. To enter such a market was to step into a place where humanity itself was measured, priced, and sold. Imagine narrow streets opening into a crowded square, the air thick with dust, sweat, and the cries of merchants. Bronze scales clattered as traders weighed silver, while overseers shouted above the din, announcing the qualities of their captives. Slaves came from every corner of conquest. Prisoners of war marched from distant lands, stripped of their past, and forced into foreign tongues. Debtors who had fallen too deep into poverty found themselves shackled, their bodies pledged as payment. Even children, sold by desperate families, stood trembling in the heat, eyes wide with fear. For the Babylonians, slavery was not merely an economic practice, it was the very foundation upon which their empire was built. The market itself was a cruel theater. Captives were paraded before buyers, their bodies inspected like livestock. Muscles were prodded, teeth examined, skin scrutinized for signs of disease. Women were forced to stand silently as strangers appraised their beauty, calculating their value not as humans, but as possessions. Contracts were inscribed on clay tablets, etched permanently into the records of empire. The voices of the market echoed with a chilling rhythm. The bark of merchants, the clinking of silver shekels, the soft weeping of those who knew their lives were no longer their own. Some were branded or marked, symbols of ownership that burned their new reality into flesh. Others were chained together, led away in groups, destined for fields, workshops, or the shadowed halls of noble houses. And yet, within this grim reality, there lingered a silence more haunting than the noise. The silence of resignation, the eyes of captives who no longer resisted, whose spirits had been broken by the march to Babylon. In that silence lay the unspoken truth. The slave market was not merely an exchange of bodies, but a crucible where hope was stripped away, leaving only obedience. For the Babylonians, it was ordinary. Slavery was woven into their laws, their commerce, their daily lives. The famous Code of Hammurabi itself carved out rules for the buying and selling of slaves, legitimizing what was, in truth, the theft of human freedom. To question it was unthinkable. To resist, it was futile. In Babylon, the market square was a stage where the drama of human suffering played endlessly, legitimized by empire and sanctified by tradition. As the sun set over the city, casting long shadows across the walls of Ishtar's gate, the market would slowly empty. Merchants counted their earnings, buyers led their new property home, and the cries of the enslaved faded into the night. By dawn, the cycle would begin again, as if yesterday's misery were nothing more than another transaction. This was the true face of the Babylonian marketplace, not the bustling exchange of spices, grain, and cloth that history often celebrates. A place where human dignity was dismantled brick by brick, just as the city itself had been raised from the dust. In the end, the story of Babylon's slave markets reminds us of the price of empire.